Hello and welcome. In this video I'm going to be showing you a program that I made. It is a file searcher. It acts as Linux cat command, looking through a file along with grep, but it actually searches through text files that are in your folder. So basically it searches inside of the text files, reading each line and then finding the line matching your query. So what you're going to do is you're going to feed the program a word that you want to find in your text files, and you're going to have these text files in the same map or in some maps under, in directories under, as in like one directory under or two, and then it would search through those files for the word you entered. So if you have, like me, if you're learning something new and you write everything inside of text files, this is going to be very useful for you. So let's get into explaining it. So the first version right here is pretty simple. I have 3 text files right here and they have certain links starting with HTTP. Obviously links start with HTTP as in protocol or www. So let's take our file right here and let's explain how it works. So first we're importing the system and the OS. These are going to be necessary for a couple of commands, nothing special. The first variable right here is all the files, and it lists the directory of the current directory that we're in. So right now we're inside of this directory and it's going to list out all of these. And then what it's going to do is it's going to attempt to get the keyword that we want to use for as our query, as our question. So this means basically, in this case, we're using the sys module to take in the argument from the command line. So if I open the command line right here, and if I wanna search through these files using this Python file, I have to type Python searcher, the name of the file, and then the word that I want to search for, so HTTP, and it's gonna find them. And this is not a 404 error, it's just written in text file like that. So it finds the whole line and prints it out. Or if that doesn't succeed, in other words, if I want to run it through idle, I can just use this one. So the program will automatically ask me that if it doesn't get this. And then we have the for loop for every in all the files. So in other words, all the files is basically our directory, and it's for every file here. So it's going to go through all of these, and then it's going to check if it ends with .txt. So if it ends with .txt, it's a text file. If it ends with .py, it's a Python file. And then we're opening that file if it ends with .txt, and else we're just passing. So we're opening it using read mode and calling the variable file, and then we're naming a new variable and using file.readLines. We're not using file.read because that would just read the whole file, and we don't want that. We want the read lines because we can print out the lines easier that way. So for each in key, so what we're doing right here basically is for every line we're going to say if entry question, which is our, say, HTTP, in R, in this specific line, we're going to print out in this file right here, we have this match. So that's good, and that's the first file. But if we take a look at the second one, what it does is it searches, it does the same thing. It can search in the same directory or in one map under or in 2 maps under, but it cannot in 3 maps on. So we can just run it. It does the same thing, the same. You can see it's literally the same code, except for when we get to this point, right? So we're checking right here if it ends with text file, and we're not using else for everything. We're adding the elif as well, because that's gonna mean if there's a dot, it's not gonna be a directory. So we should have added this to the first one as well. Basically what it does is it checks if it has a dot. It checks if it's some other file, so like .exe or .py, and then it passes. And on the else, it's going to do everything else. So if it's not a text file and it doesn't have a dot inside, it's a directory. So you know this if you've ever used command line, or, well, you can pretty much see that directories don't have extensions. And then what we're doing is we're using this something right here, which is our file, or the directory in this case. And then we're using os.list there. So basically what we're doing is this is our something, and we're entering inside and using the os list there, and it's going to show us, it's going to show us all of this. And then we're doing the same thing. We're checking if it's a text file, if there's a dot inside, or if it's a directory. And if it's a directory, we're doing the same thing, but we're listing the directory of this something that we already named, and then each file, which is in this case this one, because it didn't pass as a text file, or it didn't pass as a thing that has a dot in its name, so that means it's a directory. If I run this again and I write HTTP, there we go, all the HTTP files in my text files. you can easily adapt this to search through XML, HTML, and JSON files without much effort, because it would do the same thing. You know, just if it's a text file, or if it's a or if it's a JSON or XML or HTML, you can do that easily. And you can make the GUI look better and if possible less reliable on the picture. This is where basically I made a GUI in the PyQt designer, and it's dependent on the picture. If I delete the picture, it doesn't have the picture for the background, so that's kind of annoying. So basically the picture has to go wherever the Python file goes. And you can handle exceptions better, or if statements, you know, just make sure that it prints out whatever you want. But I think this is fine. Let me show you the third version. It does the same thing as the second, except for it has a GUI as well. Basically, this map right here caused the issues. The program used to crash, so I thought I'm gonna have to make exceptions or whatever, but I didn't. It just doesn't search that map because it's not going that deep. You would have to do the same thing that we did for the something and then each file. So the same thing, just add one more thing, you know, and then go into basically an infinite loop of that. Okay, so let me show you how this searcher works. We can run it like double click, and here is our GUI, and it has the output will appear here. Thank you for using the programs. And you write something here, and then you press search, and then it shows you all the files in the file, and then the file, and then the whole line. So it's printing out the whole line, not just the link. So I'm not going to explain you how PyQt works. This can be a whole new video. All you have to know is this is all just PyQt stuff. I basically drag and dropped everything in PyQt and then had to edit it a little bit because the scaling went a little wrong. But just ignore all this. This is like design stuff in PyQt. You don't need to know this. You can, as a matter of fact, you can actually go inside of PyQt and make a file and then export it and transfer it to the Python file, and it will look like this. All you need to know for now is that I have a text thing, and I have the button, and I have the output box thing. So in my case right here, I'm going to make, right here I'm making this button, when it's clicked, go to this function right here. Now you're probably wondering, why are we not calling the function using the parentheses or something like that? Well, that's not how you call it. You call it with self dot and the name of the function, and it's accepting self. So once the button is clicked, it's going to go there, and the text the user has inputted will go through right here, and it's going to do the same thing as the second program. So this is like the same code basically, and this is another thing that belongs to PyQt. So we're going to update the empty text thing. We're going to update the output box with our output. As I said, if you want a video on PyQt, we can do that as well, but this is just like aesthetics. You do not need to know this. If you want to rewrite the whole code, I will have it up on my website, but easier way for you is just to go to PyQt and then recreate this. It's really not that hard, so just put an image and then put this text and then this button and this input box and this output, and that's all you need to do. So I think that would be way easier for you to then just rewrite the code, but okay. And that's it. I think it's an interesting file searcher. It's nothing special, but it does serve a purpose. If I would put it, if I would sort all my text files into one place, and I would just put the program above that place in a directory above, I could search through my files easily, and I have a nice looking GUI, and it's actually pretty fun and useful, because if you have a lot of definitions and a lot of science stuff, or I don't know, whatever you're studying, you can just search through your definitions by searching for keywords in the text files. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and have a nice day.